Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we are going to be discussing interview skills. This is another one of our virtual learning sessions here with LSMCE. We've had some wonderful discussions throughout the school year. We know many students are preparing for interview season as they get ready for internships and summer opportunities. So we wanted to take this time to walk through some of the content that will help you get better prepared for the interviews that you may have coming up. So we call this interview to success. Greatness can be achieved by you. A little bit about me. I've been in the industry for about 12 years. Worked with LSMCE for over 3 years now. And we've done a great job of making an impact with our students. And we've covered many subjects. And like I said, today is interview. So that's enough about me. Let's get into more about the content. The purpose of this is for us to really help you be more successful, be more productive, and be more effective in all your endeavors. And many of the lessons that we go through can be used in industry or academia. So we'll get today started. So let's have a little bit of fun today. Let's get this thing started with a little energy. So I'll show you a quick little video here, and I hope you enjoy.
Well, Greg, your CV is certainly impressive, but I'm afraid you're not quite right for us.
Okay, fine. Thank you for considering me for the job.
And that's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. We need a cool-headed man like you on our team, Greg. That was a test, and you passed. Welcome aboard.
Well, thank you. So I've got the job?
No, of course not. I don't employ gullible fools. That was the test, Greg, and you failed. Goodbye.
Oh, all right then.
Greg, that's the nonchalant attitude we've been looking for. You passed the test.
Have I really?
No, that was the test. You questioned me. No one questions me. No, he wouldn't mind. Greg, you passed the walking away test. Come on.
So I hope you kind of get the point here. You passed the test, right? And so the reason that we show this video is many students feel that there's a test that they're taking when they go into the interview. And the reason that we talk about it from a test-taking standpoint is many students believe that it's like a pass or fail situation, a win or loss situation. And I want us to take away from this discussion today that an interview is a journey. It is a getting to know you session. It's a process. It's not just this test you take, and if you get the job or you get these research opportunity for the summer, that you passed or failed. I don't want you to put that much pressure on yourself because there's multiple reasons why people select who they select for interviews. So I don't want you to feel bad if you are, I don't want you to get too high if you're accepted and too low if you don't get accepted here, because it's not a test, it's a process. And sometimes I want you to learn that you're interviewing the interviewer as well when you're going into these sessions. So I hope that brought a little bit of humor and at the same time can relax you a little bit in the process. All right, so this number 7 means a lot here. The number 7, what do you guys think this is? Well, 7 seconds. 7 seconds to make a first impression. Many people believe that, they're going to get warmed up and then they're going to get comfortable and then the process begins. No, as soon as you introduce yourself to someone, you are leaving an impression that is the beginning phase of the interview process. So before you even walk into the building, I want you to make sure that you have yourself prepared, that you feel comfortable, that you relax your shoulders, and as soon as you do your handshake, that you are making your first impression. So to help with that first impression, we have what is called our sample elevator pitch. And I'll kind of walk through this. This is a template that I like to use with various organizations. But what we've learned with this template is that it can be easily modified for your particular needs. So let's just walk through this. Hello, my name is Brian Thomas. I am a junior at IUPUI. I enjoy mechanical engineering. I would like to become I would like to become a engine designer. My skill set in mathematics, along with my involvement in, let's use a community organization, the United Way Automotive Gives Back program, was just coming up with a program, positions me to be a valuable asset to your, say, we're talking about Purdue University, maybe a master's program in mechanical engineering. So this is an easy way to kind of settle down and have some structure to your elevator pitch. Many people are comfortable, making it up on the fly, but I really ask for those to kind of walk through this framework so you feel very confident in making that first impression. The structure of this elevator pitch can be modified very easily. And I promise you that I have people that are in industry, in academia, in college, out of college, etc., that use this template to make a good first impression. So hopefully this will be very beneficial to you, and we'll make sure we get this sample elevator pitch to LSMCE as well, so you can have the physical copy. All right. So we've talked about this concept called the Reader Theory to Success, which is a book I've written. What I like to do is take a few pieces of this to help you with your interview process. So the first one is the resume. So the reason I bring the resume up for the interview process is basically when you're doing an interview, you are going to pull from a lot of the content that is on your resume. Also, your resume typically is in front of the person who's doing the interview. So with the resume, let's bring up a couple topics. One, let's make sure that we have the least amount of grammatical errors as possible. Let's customize it for the specific job or the specific university, research program, or whatever the interview is. Do you impress yourself? And the reason I say that is I want you to feel good about yourself. I want you to feel confident. So I want your resume to be very strong, and I want you to feel confident going into this process. And then also, don't get too fancy with your resume. Make sure it's very simple and easy to understand. And when you go, as you're preparing for your interview, I highly recommend that you print off 5 to 10 copies. You never know how many people are going to be in your interview process, and you also never know how an interview may get modified. There's been times where I've interviewed for a job, and they'll tell me that I'm interviewing with 2 people, but then after I interview, they're like, hey, a person from another department would like to meet with you. Well, having the spare resumes helps with that. Also, you want to make sure that you have a spare resume for yourself. I always like to at least keep a resume in front of me. I may not look down to read it at all times, but I make sure that at least is in front of me just in case it's for point of reference. So with the resume, I hope you kind of understand the importance of what's on your resume and really understand the detail behind the few bullet points that you put on your resume, because when a person asks you a question during your interview, you can pull directly from your resume. Your resume is the short story. During the interview, you're going to give them the longer story, and you're able to put a little more emotion and passion behind it because you're physically in front of them. The other thing is, do not hesitate to have the resume in front of you, even if you're doing an interview over Skype or a virtual interview. We want to treat a virtual interview with the same seriousness that we will treat an in-person interview. All right. And then also, one of the other reasons with extra resumes is these days, I've noticed there's a lot of people who do panel interviews. And with a panel interview, you may have 5 or 6 people who are interviewing you at the same time. All right. So to give you more confidence in being prepared for this interview, yes, we have our resume, but how do we make sure that we have enough action verbs inside of this? So let's look at the power of words. Prepared, developed, created, implemented, managed, supervised. Those are words of action. You want to make sure that in your experience section of your resume that you lead in with these words. This is also important because when I'm in an interview and I ask someone, you know, tell me about a time when you did X, Y, or Z. These are the type of words that you lead in with. Well, in 2014, when I created, back when I was involved with this engineering program or this engineering summer research program, I had a chance to implement, I had a chance to manage. Those are the type of words that show leadership, and they also show that you're a person who completes a task or completes an action or an objective. So I want to make sure that we remember to not only have these on our resume, but when we vocalize these during our interview process, that we lead in with these strong action verbs. All right, so let's look at the definition of the word do, which is, the word experience, which is the process of doing, the skill or knowledge that you get by doing, and the length of time that you have spent doing something. And so what is the commonality that we have here? Is the word do. So the reason that we bring this up is one of the ways to have more confidence going into your interviews is to have had great experiences. The more experiences that you can have going into your interview process, the more confident you can be because you know that you have many experiences to pull from. The least amount of experience you have, the harder it is when questions get very difficult, or if they ask you to elaborate more, or it's just a really long interview. So the wonderful thing about experience is that it's available to all of us. So I know that there may be a challenge and you say, well, Brian, I'm just a freshman. Well, one of the things to remember is your experiences from high school are just as valuable. So we don't want to put down any experience that you have, even if it was at a previous school, if it was, you interviewing in a master's program, but it was when you were getting your 4-year degree. It's okay. All experiences are very valuable if you can extract the principles and the lessons learned from them. Okay. So let's just take a little test here. Tell me how long you think this is. Seems like forever right now. All right. Now, my question to you is, did 30 seconds feel longer than expected when nothing else was happening? The reason I show this slide is because when you're in an interview and someone asks you a question, it's okay to take a few seconds. If you said, Brian, between every question, I'm going to take a 5-second pause to just gather my thoughts. It's okay. A lot of times we don't know just how long 5 seconds is. You can get a lot of thinking done in that time frame. So don't feel uncomfortable if a person asks you a question that you want to take just a few minutes to gather your thoughts and make sure that you give the proper response. The interview process is not a timed test. It is a process of you getting the most information that you can out to put yourself in the best position to get the job or the admission that you're seeking. So time taking your time and feeling confident about yourself is very critical. And one of the ways that you can relax yourself is to take a small pause in between the questions. So let's talk about this concept of listening and how it ties into being prepared for interviews. Most people do not listen with intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. The reason why I put this up here is because in an interview, when you take that 5 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever you choose should be in ensuring that you had a good understanding of the question and that you start to develop a response that answers the question. If you are listening with the intent to just reply and not with the intent to understand, in an interview, you may give a great answer, but you may not have actually answered the question that the interviewer was asking. And so one of the best ways to conduct a great interview is to answer their questions and make them feel that they get received an answer that aligned with the question they were asking. Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. So one of the things about an interview is that we get really pumped up, right? We're excited. This is our big chance to get this opportunity. And one of the things that happens is we get so excited that we only want to talk about ourselves. And we don't think about when we come into the interview to ask the person how they're doing today. Maybe ask them where they're from. Just a little small talk can go a long way as you're preparing to conduct an interview. One of the other things about getting too excited is that you start to speak too quickly. So we definitely want to just relax. We want to listen to all the feedback they're telling you, even if it's something as simple as them telling you the directions to the bathroom. Those are the type of questions we want to have to keep asking, because maybe, they're like, man, I thought I told you 3 times before. Let's make sure we listen up front, and even a good listening session before the interview can relax you before the questions come. Now, we just give an example of the importance of listen. Listen and silent have the same letters. And I want you to consider yourself as the interviewer. So tell me more. I'm all ears. So consider this. You want the interviewer to listen to you and to be at full attention when you're speaking and answering the questions. So why would we not want to be at full attention and all ears to the interviewer when they're asking the question? It's very critical to make sure we show respect both ways. And in doing so, it will enhance the interview experience for you. All right. The big pause button. You may wonder, why do we have a pause button? Because in the process of preparing for the interview, say you're at the facility, there may be a moment where you need to step to the bathroom to get yourself together. Many places, almost all, will say, would you like something to drink? Would you like to have a bathroom break? I like to always say yes to those things. It's nice to have water available just in case you have a long interview. And it's also nice to go to the bathroom to make sure that your clothes and personal hygiene are in the proper position as you prepare for a very critical interview. And it's also a moment for you just to go in and take a deep breath and just relax before you go into your interview session. We also put the pause up here because in the middle of an interview, you may need to just take a break. And the taking a break doesn't mean you say, hey, Mr. Interviewer, I'm a little tired here. You've been asking me too many questions. That's not what a pause means. What the pause means is in between questions, you may ask for the question to be repeated. And just by doing that, you can gain another minute or two of just being in your thoughts. In between questions, you may want to just take a longer pause. Instead of 5 seconds, you may take 15 seconds just to make sure that you're able to articulate the answer to the question in a manner that you like. So don't ever hesitate to take a pause. We're not asking you to stop. We didn't say stop, but we'll say take a pause in certain critical phases of the interview process. All right. So I want you to visually think about the interview as a bridge. We have all of the experiences that you have before the interview takes place. We're talking about middle school, high school, your college experience, your internships, your research opportunities, everything that you've done, your volunteer work. All of your experiences are bottled up and they're put into a car. And all we're trying to do is take the car across the bridge. And that bridge is the position you're interviewing for. That is in a very simple visual, aspect of this. That is what we're doing. We're trying to articulate our experiences in such a way that it positions us to be the best candidate for the position that we're looking for. The fact that you have the interview means that you've already gone through a certain process of weeding out. And so now it's showtime. It's the time for you to be in person or virtually and, see you and be able to talk more in depth about what's on your resume or what was on your application. So you don't have to feel like the interview is like, such a strong test. You've already done well. You have made it through a certain process already. So feel confident that having an interview is actually a reward. Some people look at having to do an interview as a punishment. No, it's a reward. You made it through a process. Now let's complete the mission and finish the process. So let's talk about a few key interview takeaways. I like to use a concept called proper planning prevents poor performance. One of the first things for proper planning is knowing where you're interviewing, knowing who you're interviewing with, learning a little bit of background potentially about those individuals that you're interviewing with, learning more about the institution and their programs that you may be interviewing for. Or if you're interviewing with a company, more about the company. What are their values? What is the mission? What have they been involved in recently in the news? Those are things that you can easily do research on. Proper planning also means double checking your resume and making sure that you feel very confident in speaking about the experiences that you say you have on your resume and or application. Also, let's talk about being comfortable and sharing your experiences. Some people are very, very uncomfortable speaking about themselves. The interview is all about talking about what you are doing. So we want you to feel very confident that the interview is the time where it's okay. You may be a little shy. You may feel like, man, talking about myself is an arrogant thing. Well, in an interview, we need you to be confident in talking about you, because this is about you getting the opportunity that you worked all year to get to. Don't forget, you are interviewing as well, and many people do lose sight to this. When you're being interviewed, you also are interviewing the institution, you're interviewing the company, learning more about them. And so one of the things that you can do to interview them is at the very end, pretty much all interviews will ask if you have questions. And so one of the things you can do is to ask a question that opens up a little bit more about what they are doing, maybe more about their program, where they see their program going in the next 5 years, what type of research will this department be doing in the future, what type of technology will this company be developing, in the near future. Those are just real simple. They're very safe type of questions that can be used to open the door to learning a little bit more about who you are interviewing with. Also, always be on time, and I highly recommend getting there a little early. You never know what happens on your way there and how things may be modified. And also, knowing that the people who may be interviewing you are looking out in the lobby and seeing that you're ready and prepared goes a long way. And then lastly, I will say trust your instincts. Don't ever hesitate in the interview. If you believe and you have conviction in your statement, let it go. It's okay. You're not looking for the fanciest or the most creative words to say. The key is to be honest, tell the truth, and trust your instincts. And many times your first instincts are right. So that ends our session on being prepared for interviews. These are ways you can get in contact with me. You can also get in contact with me through LSMCE. Also, LSMCE has many more resources available to you on the website and through other avenues, through the email list as well. So I hope you enjoyed your time, and we'll see if there's any questions that may be out there for us.
Hey, Brian, I have a question for you. Thank
Okay.
you so much. About nerves, I get really nervous before I go into an interview. Are there any tips that you have to help me with that?
Oh, absolutely. The first tip that I'll say is a little odd, but it's one that has helped me, and it's one that I've taught over the years. And this is one about physical nerves, is to actually relax and bring our body temperature down. So one of the things we do, I've learned, Dev, for people who have morning interviews, they actually shower in the mornings. And what happens is you're increasing your body temperature if you're taking a warm shower, and then you may go outside and you may be in a hot place, or maybe summertime, and now your body temperature is continuing to increase, and now you're getting ready for an interview and your nerves kick in, and now your body temperature is increasing more to a point of sweating. And when you begin sweating, that just intensifies the nerves. And so one of the things I like to do is to really get into a cold place to cool down. Sometimes you may need to, if it's cold outside, just stand outside for a few minutes. If it's summertime, you may want to sit in a car or an air-conditioned environment just to really relax your body and bring your body temperature down, because no matter how experienced we are, even me, when I go into an interview, the process itself naturally increases the temperature because your nerves are kicking in. And so that was one item, and that's on physical side. On the mental side, it's just really knowing your resume, because typically an interviewer will have your application, they'll have your resume, and they're going to stem their questions from that. Now, they may have some very standard questions, but even those standard questions, you should link to your resume, because that's something they've already read, and they've already started to develop an idea of who you are. And that's probably what they use to decide to bring you in for the interview. So I really like using items that are on the application or the resume. And one of the ways for you to be confident about that is to really practice the stories that come behind. Because like we said, your resume is a short story. And when you interview, you're just telling the longer story of what you put on there. So really knowing that, and then also working on keeping that body temperature low and taking advantage, Deb, when you walk in, really taking advantage of when they say, would you like to go to the bathroom? Absolutely. Even if you don't have to, just take advantage of that moment to relax and regroup and reset.
Thank you. I have one more question. So we've had the interview, now what? I mean, what is the follow-up procedure, and is it okay to do it by email as opposed to written letters?
I think they both work. I think nowadays it's a little more acceptable to just receive an email that's saying thank you. But I will say that it's never a problem being different. It's never a problem standing out. And so I think that a person that's interviewing you to send a thank you note, a thank you letter, will probably go a long way in knowing that there's many people who don't do it these days. Even in industry, they're not doing this much these days. I think that's a way for you to stand out. But regardless of what avenue you take, I highly recommend taking one of them, do something, even if it's a phone call follow-up. Make sure that there's some type of communication in the first 24 hours after your interview of you saying thank you for the opportunity to interview, and you're looking forward to feedback about the position. I typically want to stay away from saying, hey, thanks for interviewing me. I can't wait to start, because you're kind of putting yourself in the position. Some people may say that that's not the right advice to say that. I typically say is be a little bit more conservative and just say, thank you for the opportunity to interview you, and really enjoyed it, had a great time. Look forward to your feedback about the position. That allows for them to know you're interested, you're excited, you understand the concept of follow-up, and you also are thanking them for their time, and you're not being too forward by putting yourself in a position too soon. Hopefully this webinar was very beneficial, and we look forward to bringing more to you here in the near future.